Frank J. Avella with the Contending, here with Alexandra Brodski, the director of the first 3 episodes of Richard Gadd's remarkable new series, Half Man, now streaming on HBO MAX. Hi, Alexandra.
Hello.
Alexandra, this is my favorite show of the season, so this is a real treat to be speaking with you.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you.
So the first 3 episodes mostly focus on young Ruben and Niall, except for the beginnings and endings. I'm guessing that was a deliberate choice.
Yeah. It was always written like that. It was always the concept to go each episode a moment in their lives up until they are present day age.
And the younger actors, Stewart and Mitchell, did they film their scenes first?
Yeah. We filmed. I mean, we didn't film all scenes chronologically, but we first filmed. So I first filmed episode one, two, three, all the flashbacks, and then I filmed the wedding, like all the wedding bits because then Jamie joined, and so I filmed all his and Richard's scenes in the wedding, and then it went over to the second block.
I'm curious, how hands-on are you with the actors in terms of discovering the characters?
Very much. Like I absolutely love working with actors. We had a week of rehearsals with Stuart and Mitchell. I think it's crucial, to be honest. I think for me, the feeling trying to make them, and I'm saying this, consider they're amazing actors. It's not that I need to do so much for them to be great, but I love this. We had like the three of us had like a very long rehearsal process, which is very rare in TV actually to get the chance to do that. But we were kind of playing a bit with the characters and discovering their relationship. They luckily got on so well, so they already had the chemistry between them. But I think it was very much figuring out, for example, with Stuart, how what exactly is his energy like? How do we make him feel threatening and alive? And we talked so much about like everything is possible at all times. And I very much believe in the physicality of acting. Like it's not just about an intellectual conversation, but also about how do you make them feel present in their bodies with each other and in the room and use the space and be spontaneous. And the same with Mitchell, who had quite a particular challenge also. He has such a big development from app one to app three. How does he grow up? How does this reflect in his body language? How does he do comedy? How does he do drama? Like those kind of things. And we just had a great relationship and kept exploring things. And because we then had quite a good like base for set, it just made things on set like so easy because to some degree where they had this groundwork of how they feel like, and then we could be more nuanced and more precise about how they deliver the dialogue. And because Richard writes very specific dialogue, and like it's so much about the rhythm and how do lines land, so we could work on all those details because we had all this groundwork and also a good trust, like relationship based on trust with each other.
You can really feel that in the series. The characters are so rich, and I get the feeling that they could have been overplayed. Did you need to modulate them at all?
Don't think that both boys have like a tendency to overacting much. I think there are moments we actually had like a really funny like shorthand with Mitchell because there was one moment where he came into space and he was looking for someone. And for some reason, he was really rarely overacting, but he was so overacting the scene. He like came in and was just like staring everywhere, and it was like so big. And I started to laugh. And I was like, Mitchell, you were acting as if you were in a zombie apocalypse looking for zombies. Like, what is happening? And he was like laughing, and it kind of became our shorthand that whenever, which wasn't very often, but like whenever I felt he's overacting, I would say, Mitchell, zombie apocalypse. Or he would sometimes stop himself in a take and was like, this zombie apocalypse. It's like, yeah, and then he would like tone himself down, but he obviously can do it. Like he's an amazing instinctual actor, but sometimes this is why I'm there for to watch. Is this going too far or is it not enough? So there were like a few moments like that, but it was very like playful because I also know he really knows how to do it differently. And it's just like a reminder, like this is a bit big, no zombie apocalypse.
I love that that was the trigger word. Uh, so episode 3, so it's about pressure and coercion and kind of using love in a way to get what you want or need. It's fascinating.
Mhm. Yeah, you summarized it very well here.
So the show deals with some very dark subject matter, but there's a lot of humor in it too, which I really appreciate. Can you speak to finding that balance?
I mean, I think first of all, it comes from the script. Like there are just like some things that just they have more jokes, some have less jokes. Sometimes we would play a little bit with the edit, exploring how much of humor we want to keep, how much we want to take out, because that sometimes it's very tricky. I think it's sometimes a little bit like cooking, that sometimes it's not a theoretical idea. You need to kind of season it and see how it tastes. And I think sometimes you would be working like that in the edit. But in general, it had quite a clear structure because like in Ep 1, we're building up the threat of Ruben. There's not that much comedy because we're building up we felt we were exploring a bit more comedy, but it felt it's getting in the way of his threat. And then once they start bonding, we introduce more comedy because there's also these moments where you should have hope that it might go well, and maybe they will help each other to become better people and happier people. And then Niall goes to university. There's quite a big chunk of there's quite a lot of space for him to try to be cool and fail at it and trying to like be like a new kind of reinvent his own identity and then fail at it again. So there were like moments like that. And then obviously the more humor you have, I also think it raises the stakes for then to later be more dramatic because you had this kind of moments of relief with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, I want to ask you about your choice of using the what seemed like handheld style, as well as these intense close-ups, especially during the Ruben Nile scenes. I felt like the second time watching the three episodes, I felt like I was so anxiety ridden, and I appreciated that because I feel like that's
Okay.
how I was supposed to feel.
Yeah, 100%. I think when I read the script, for me, I just immediately, I think it's so important that watching the show feels physical and visceral and immersive, and that it never feels like an intellectual exploration of these people in the distance. I think their moral dilemmas are so complicated, and they're complicated because you're in them, because you're also trying to keep up and you're trying to figure out, and you don't know this is horrible and he's horrible, but also I love him and he's so charming and did he change or no he hasn't, like, and it should feel complicated to make those decisions because they are emotional and physical and not intellectual from a distance. And I felt this proximity to the characters was so important to me. And I really like, for example, the filmmaking of the Safdie brothers. I like the immersive feel of it. I like the anxiety of it. I looked a lot, for example, at like Uncut Gems and films like that. And I like, for example, we had like loads of scenes where we cut from close up to close up, where we have sounds on cuts, where it feels as if you are with the characters constantly thrown into a new environment. And before you had time to figure out what's going on, you're already faced with the next decision to make. So I think that was so important to me that this is how it feels like. And I'm glad it seems to be working for you.
Absolutely. And I felt a little Von Trier too. I felt a little specifically breaking the waves in there.
I love that film. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, you also use some fun matching shots from past to present, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that was because sometimes those ideas that are also sometimes those things I can't actually remember. I think some of them were written, some of them we planned or found in the edit or shot already like that. And sometimes drama comes from this cutting close up to close up or matching shot to matching shot. And sometimes humor comes out of it because you can juxtapose two different emotions or you keep the same emotions and show time has passed and he's still feeling like that. And I think it's always looking at things, is this drama, is this comedy, and making the world feel and the tone feel complicated and rich.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about in Ep 3, the awkward dinner scene, which I loved
Yeah.
when Joanna pisses off Maura. Can you speak about creating and maintaining the tension in that scene?
I mean, it was a very long scene to shoot. It's a lot of eyelines. It's just a lot of dialogue. It's so much subtext and so much because I just think Richard's writing is so complicated and so nuanced, which is what I love about it. But me as a director, I also have the responsibility to capture all of that. I have to capture all the looks between them. So these two are talking and then the moms are looking at each other. I need to make sure I get it. I also need to make sure the actors do that. Like a lot of them obviously have an instinct. They're like they know the characters so well. They were great actors, so they offer you so much. But obviously, I also need to track all these little mini stories within the big story. And like, when is it a comedic moment? When is it comedic moment for everybody apart from Niall, who's really stressed out? So I think it was just very much paying attention like in every scene, but I guess in this scene, because there's so many characters with different agendas at the table, how do you keep track of the story?
It works so well because anybody who's been in a awkward family moment at the table, can understand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the Renee Fleming opera piece I thought was so powerful, journeying into the courtroom. Yeah, it was incredible. Was that scripted or was that your choice?
I think it was not scripted for a long time. Then it was definitely Richard's idea. He at some point scripted it. We were discussing. He showed me this track when he started like thinking about it, and I absolutely loved the track. I think it's such a good choice for this.
Mm.
Like so, I think when you showed me the track, then I started thinking, it would be great if this track goes. If we shoot then the entrance into the courtroom in slow motion and give space for then the music to carry on. So it was very collaborative. It was definitely Richard's idea. I was absolutely in love with this track. I think it's an amazing choice for this. I think it's so melancholic and kind of carries the emotion from their journey in the car into the courtroom. So I absolutely love this sequence as well. It's like one of my favorite sequences.
Yeah, me too. And I want to talk about the wedding moments because I feel like it's so different from the rest of the series. You zooms, you use dollies the way Altman uses dollies, and still close-ups. But it all felt bigger.
Thank you for noticing that. So yeah, definitely. I think we talked to the DP Carlos about it actually quite a lot. That we want that the pastime is like very visceral and a lot of we had Steadicam as well quite a bit, but like mostly the feel is very handheld, and we had a lot of handheld camera. And then we thought that there's something about the bookends which should still feel connected, but there's nearly something fairy tale-ish or heightened about it, like a sense of destiny between these two characters who are coming together. So we wanted to slightly heighten the language of the cinematography to reflect that, and to, as you say, to use more zooms and to use tracks and to use slow motion, and kind of to have also that there's less dialogue, so to have more visual storytelling in the bookends.
Um, I the endings of the first two episodes end pretty violently, but the way it ends in episode three isn't violent, yet it's scarier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree. I agree.
yeah. I mean, it's a chilling setup for the last three episodes, which of course we won't discuss. Um, how did you go about deciding on how much violence um, that you were actually going to show in the show? Because I'm specifically thinking about what happens in episode two, and
Yeah.
I wanted to look away, but I didn't look away, and I ended up sympathizing with Ruben actually because I realized he's a product of his class. He's a product of his crap parents, and I something about the amount that you used brought me there.
It's great that it worked like that for you. I think because we did discuss a lot of we had so many conversations about the violence, obviously, because it's a huge responsibility. Also, like how much do you show? I think it's different. It's several different responsibilities because one is towards it's like how much do you embrace shocking the audience? Everybody will have a different threshold of what they want to see and don't want to see. Then, what's the right amount of violence to serve the story? Like and I feel my main responsibility is what I feel is I want to communicate what I feel serves the story. I think that it needs to go quite far because that's what we're exploring. We're exploring in the show how shame and guilt and anger and fear and the products of the time and those relationships they're coming from, how they contribute to violence. So I think it's important to not sanitize the violence because for me it really changes what the show would be about. So I felt we have to show quite an extreme moment of violence, and it's also the only like very violent. It's not that we have like every second scene is that violent. It's like a very shocking scene, but it's one scene like in this way in episode 2 at least. And I think that for me it was very much about how to make it feel real and crass. But to be honest, we don't even linger on the visuals of it that long. There are like a few shots of him hitting his Albie's face, and then there's the implication of him stomping on his face. And this is obviously an insane thing to do. And we picked very carefully, like, to show it from Niall's perspective. The whole thing was always like very much from Niall. It was about Niall experiencing it, so it should be as shocking to us as it feels like to Niall. And I think that was for me always the guiding, kind of the guide. How does Niall feel? Like, I want the audience to feel like that, because this
Mm.
is the turmoil we're supposed to feel.
Well, certainly effective. How did your collaboration with Richard come about, by the way?
Mm-hmm. So I read the first two episodes. My agent sent me the scripts for the first two episodes. I absolutely loved them. I literally felt, I don't know, I just felt I have to direct the scripts, and they felt so close paced. It's not so often in TV that you get scripts which are so specific to my taste. And I just loved this physicality, but the relationship, the darkness, and the humor. I felt there was also tenderness and empathy in it. So I just loved the complexity of the story. And then I think I spent 2 weeks. It was my first job as a lead director, so I felt I kind of need to put a lot of work to get this job. So I spent 2 weeks just, I think, 24 hours per day looking for visual references to try to communicate the feeling I had to Richard for when I was about to meet him. And I used a lot of street photography. I used a lot of Scottish and Russian street photography, kind of looking for this rawness, but also for a warmth and humor and a tenderness, and amongst all the darkness. And then I met Richard and showed him the pitch deck. I felt we really connected over it, and that I felt very much, are we looking for the same thing? And I guess he felt the same, since I then got the job. So we then, from that on, it became like a really useful guide as well for us to then start building our relationship and discussing the scenes and figuring out what's important for him, what's important to me. And I just felt we were very much looking for similar things, for like the complexity and the truthfulness, and also the humanity in it, as dark as it goes. So yeah, I felt it was a great collaboration.
That's what's so important, and that's what I think you captured. Also, I have to mention in Somewhere Boy, you do the same thing. You directed the final 4 episodes of that, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a pretty intense series.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's what I like.
Yeah. What are you working on next, Alexander?
I'm still figuring out. I literally finished the mix on this one in January, and then we
Wow.
were doing, and then halfway was we had the big release. So I'm back. I spent a year now in Glasgow, and now I'm back in London, where I'm based. And now I'm just figuring, I'm reading scripts, figuring out like next moves. So we'll see.
Well, thank you for taking the time out to speak with me. It's incredible work. Seriously,
Thank
congratulations.
you. Thank you so much. Really
Th-
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.